dreams take flight in the amber light. A circle of minds, a fire of thought, building some from what we've got. Grab a log, throw it on. The night is young. The night is young. Welcome to the Inventive Fireside, where wisdom burns and hopes collide. Pull up a chair, let's fan the flame. Together we'll light up the game. The crackling wood, it tells a tale. Lessons learned and ships that sail. Experts speak and the sparks cascade. Fueling dreams that will never fade. Bring your spark, your ember bright. Let's stoke the blaze through the endless night. Inventive Fireside, where wisdom burns and hopes collide. Pull up a chair, let's fan the flame. Together we'll light up the game.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to another Inventive Fireside. So this is a quick introduction or a quick reminder for those that may be new to the audience. First of all, excited to have you here and always looking to share a variety of different expertise, things that would be helpful to your startup and small business. And with that, before we dive into the topic at hand and welcome the guest on, just a really quick reminder. We do these usually about 2 or 3 times a month. That's kind of the rhythm that we've gotten into. And for any to check out the ones that are upcoming as they are released, you can just go to my LinkedIn page, click the events tab, and then you'll be able to see which ones are coming up, register for them, get the reminder, and all those good things. So with that, excited to dive into another great topic and a great area to learn some new things. And we're going to be talking a little bit about both product development and building a business in the outdoor industry. So there's pretty wide variety of different things that you can do in the outdoors. Every industry has things that overlap or the same, but also niches or different things that you might want to know within the different industries. So I think it should be a great opportunity to learn or get some insight knowledge and to otherwise be able to have some a good opportunities to get some questions answered. So with that much is maybe a quick wind up and a quick pitch. Welcome on to the Inventive Fireside, Kevin.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Busy as always. That's the way I like it. So life is good. So I'm gonna go, or I'm gonna throw it over to you. Just maybe take a minute or two, kind of introduce or yourself to the audience, and then from there, let's dive in and have you share a little bit about the outdoor industry.
Okay, sounds good. I am Kevin Timm. I am in the process of starting the third outdoor brand I have started. There there's a lot of different types of businesses in the outdoor industry, everything from guiding all the way up to a product style brand. So this is the third one. I've learned quite a bit along the way about building a brand. I've also ended up meeting some of the people that have been behind some of the probably biggest brands that you know in the outdoor industry as far as the product side. I've also met a lot of guides, a lot of people with a lot of passion, and it hasn't always been easy. I actually came from an IT background myself, but I had a passion for the outdoors. Well, I had a passion for the outdoors ever since I was a kid. And probably, if I'm being real honest with myself, some of my desire to start a brand was probably a pendulum swing from how involved everyone was getting into their phones. I also found out during the way or along the way, that I have some unique skills, I would say, that have benefited me well in the building of a brand, even though there's been a lot of self-doubt, especially early on, along the way. First 5 years, there were numerous times I thought, am I an idiot thinking I could start a tent business or things like that? However, it's been 16 years since I started my first outdoor brand now, so I think I've probably had some success in this. The brand, the first brand I started has been fairly well known within a more niche community and had a significant amount of market share there. So that's a little bit of my background. Ready to dive into a few of the lessons learned along the way, if we want to go that route. First,
Yep, go ahead and dive in.
okay, the first lesson I would say, and I'm not saying this because I'm on Devin's platform here, but is to legally protect yourself. I made that mistake with my first brand, and that's the reason I lost it last year because I trusted my wife when she was my wife and business partner. And then when we were no longer married, people change, and she took legal proceedings to basically try to steal the brand from me. There were things that I did that were nice along the way, probably to avoid fighting with my spouse, where I should have dug in my heels and been like, I don't care if we're married or not. People change. This is protecting me legally. 50-50 isn't really 50-50 after you've been divorced. And there are ways around all that stuff. Second is legally protecting yourself in the forms of IP. And so that's trademarks, um, patents, utility patents, things like that as well. If people can copy it, they will copy it. Although I do think, even though there are products that are technically patented, some patents probably are so weak because they have so many exclusions to their functionality. You have to balance that, and you have to balance actually the desire to be able to prosecute on the patent as well. So you probably need to have a little bit of teeth along with your patent to really, and Devin, of course, would be the expert in that regard there. Along the way, as I previously mentioned, losing business, I had a pretty good relationship with another IP and patent protection firm. But as my ex-wife was blowing things up, she sued them and stuff as well. So we no longer communicate either. Now, now that I've got that out of the way, let's go into some of the self-doubt and learning along the way. It's common to have some self-doubt and think like, especially when you're passionate or getting into something new and you haven't necessarily had a background in it. What I did have a background in was basically engineering, design, things like that. I was a computer security researcher, even though that's a long ways from designing tents and backpacks. There's still a lot of the same thought that carries over. Like in computer security, for instance, complexity is usually the enemy of security. And if you want something to reliably work well, you want to reduce it down to its absolute minimum. The same really goes for product and reliability. Unfortunately, consumers oftentimes get attracted to trinkets. So you have to balance that as well or be able to articulate that. I would step back a little bit in that one of the big thing I learned along the way was when I started the first brand, I didn't know anything about branding. All I really knew about was the engineering side of it and what I thought could make something work and be kind of cool. Brand is much more important in the how you treat people, how you convey your message to people, what you are about. You can't be all over the board. There's too much stuff out there. So you have to be able to concisely articulate what your brand is about so consumers can grasp onto it and know, like, if I'm looking for stuff that works great for everyday gear or is just super comfortable, this is the brand I go to. If I'm looking for something that's performance based, this is what I go to. And I would say that an easy way to align that would be to like look at the car market and truck market. You don't go to Porsche for trucks. You go to Porsche. You probably don't go to Porsche for the utmost in luxury either. You go to Porsche because they're fun and they're fast and they're sporty. If you want something that can haul 20,000 pounds, you go to a big three truck maker. If you want something that is luxurious, you go somewhere else. So it really benefits the brand staying in its lane. I don't think it would be tremendously successful if Porsche tried to make a heavy duty truck, or if the heavy duty truck makers tried to make a sports car of, a Lambo of some sorts. So really articulate that brand, the brand guidelines, really build it. And so since this is my third time, the second brand I started was absorbed by the first brand. And we had some patented stuff there on backpack frames and stuff as well. And I can go a little bit into what failed the second brand. And the second brand spent too much time trying to trying to carve a wide marketing niche and not enough time trying to sell a product quickly at the beginning. So you also have to be cognizant of that you've got to get income going at some point. And I've seen this, I've had friends that have started some of the biggest brands out there in hunting and fishing and stuff like that. So I know their success stories. I've also had friends that have started brands that have never gotten off the ground because they've spent too much time basically letting perfection be the enemy of really good product. And they never got to the point where they released a product and they finally said, well, I can't really get there because they've spent too much time trying to be an absolute perfectionist. The fact of the matter is, and I'm delving a bit into the product side at this point. The fact of the matter is, when a product gets out there, people are going to use it in ways in which you did not foresee. And it's going to have issues in ways you did not foresee. For instance, the second brand I started was really focused on performance backpacks. We did things so different than what anyone else was doing. One of our tests, we did had someone who was a former special forces person hike like 33 miles in the desert in the summer with 110, 115 pounds until we got a failure. And then we corrected that failure. What we didn't anticipate, because we had checked out all the failure modes for when you're wearing the backpack and doing a backpack activity, what we didn't anticipate is someone may throw the backpack in the back of their rhino-lined truck with weight in it, say 40 or 50 pounds, and drive down a washboard road, and that's going to just super abrade on the fabric. So there were some failures that crept in from means in which we did not anticipate. Another would be when it was in an airplane hull. Those sorts of abrasions, they weren't things that we did our testing around, but they were things that in the real world, at minimum, maybe they weren't an absolute failure. They made people be like, what's going wrong with my pack here? And is this going to be an issue going forward? And oftentimes it wasn't, but it was one of those things that we just learned and we had to cover it up and fix it at that point. Um, I would say at least brands have all sorts of primary methods of operation, I guess you would say. Some brands or some companies are extremely marketing heavy and they don't really want to rely on the repeat customer. I have always went the opposite side on that, in that I want to give customers really good service and really good product, and I want to rely on word of mouth. It is the best advertisement. I have ran into people at shows that have said, like, one guy came up and told me at a show, he said, man, I am such a fan of your brand. And he said flew into the Frank Church in Idaho, had one of our tents set up, and had so many people in a very remote area ask him during the trip, like, what tent is that? And stuff as well. And he said, but next year when he went back in the unit that he flew into, there were several of the same exact tents within there. There's also possibility people will copy you if they can. I've seen a lot. I would say that going back a little bit to the IP, the first brand I started, we patented the backpack brand, patented this is framing. The tent brand, Devon's worked with me, have a patent on zipperless shelter design. Also had a couple design patents. I don't put a whole lot of input, a lot of emphasis on the design patents. They're more maybe a little bit of a marketing thing at a minimum. However, there probably were, if we had wanted, there probably were 6 to 8 other things we could have patented. And when I look around at the lightweight portable wood stove market today, almost every stove out there is some sort of derivative of the stoves we designed 12, 15 years ago. So it might have been wise to put some sort of IP protection around a couple of components there if we could have, since many of them have been adopted into other products as well. On the product now, I will say this about the going around the third time. What I've learned since I've had, I would say success, even though I lost the success in the first brand, I did garner a lot of respect from people. I had some people that have come up to me and said they were big fans of my designs. I've had things like that happen. I'm not necessarily ego driven like that. But now that I'm 5 weeks into starting the third brand, a lot of that respect I gained in the first couple brands has made the third brand go much easier. For instance, calling fabric suppliers, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we'll extend to you big quantity discounting. Where when you're just some Joe Schmo, and there are a lot of passion projects, when you're just some Joe Schmo that says, oh, I'm going to start a brand or I'm going to start making a product, they don't really know and they're not necessarily going to invest much time in you. Where this time around, I'm getting people that are willing to invest a little bit of time in what I'm trying to build, which has been a big benefit. And I'm really focusing on the branding, communication, how all that feels right from the get-go.
Well, awesome. Well, definitely great walkthrough, a lot of great information, a lot of good insights. So definitely appreciate you kind of giving us some of those top tricks and tips and things you've learned along the way, and otherwise how you might approach the market. So with that, I always say I love or I look or this is my favorite part, and I always look and say, well, I don't know if I have a favorite part because I love to learn, love to have the or one-on-one chat, and I even love to hear what your favorite book or podcast is. But to dive into a little bit of the one-on-one fireside chat, an opportunity to kind of field questions I'd had as well as the audience. One of the questions I think that comes up a lot is there are a lot of, I think, interesting, also, I guess I'll say interesting outdoor products that are kind of cool or unique or even sometimes do solve a problem, and not all of them are necessarily successful. It's kind of like in the golf industry, if a whole bunch of you have a whole bunch of people that play golf and they all have their idea or something that they want to get to make on their own, and yet a lot of them aren't successful along the way. So how do you kind of gauge what the or would be successful from the audience or from your potential clients? Is that doing marketing testing, trying it out, influencers, trade shows, all the above, or kind of how do you kind of gauge if you're on the right track and or when to course correct?
For me, I think it's much more of a gut instinct, uh, understanding when you have where something fits within the market and where it has a very strong benefit that you can articulate. Then if
Hmm.
you have to be able to articulate it well as well. If you have a benefit and it takes you 500 words to spit out the benefit, it's going to be lost on people. So you have to be able to articulate it. I have been using Chat GPT to sharpen things a lot, and that has worked very well on the messaging. It takes the 25 words and turns it into a 7-word piece that says the same thing and maybe says it more powerful. I also think that you just get a feel for the pain points that people are. And sometimes for me, it's not, and there are people that are well known in the outdoor industry that don't spend a lot of time outside doing things because, but they're good at designing and putting together a product. I would say one of the brands that is under Yeti would be what you would say there as a description. But I also, I've had my ex-wife drop me off at the Mexico border and started walking, with a backpack on my and run into people along the way. I have had one of the differences between my first brand and this brand is going for much more in the center. And the first brand I had made very high performance products as far as weight to capability and durability combined. Very durable, very light, oftentimes used on fly-in trips and remote locations and very expedition worthy stuff. Uh, However, I will also say that, like, I was at a show last year, and there were a lot of people that were like, I love your stuff. I wish you would just tone it down the more hunting side just a touch. And for me, that was like um a thing of what we should do to reach a broader audience. And when you do, and I also have used ChatGPT for market research on the size of various brands. I know compared to my old brand, it was pretty accurate on the old brand, so I'm going to assume that it's fairly accurate on the other brands, but it can give you a pretty good idea where there might be a couple holes in the market as well. And some of that is also sanity check, talking to friends in the industry. Just I do that fairly often. Not, I mean, they might be hunting friends, they might be fishing friends, they might be, and just like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing with people? What are you seeing is their desire? How are their trips changing this year? But I don't use that as like a 100% thing. I mostly it's instinct, and you have a tendency to know when you have something, or at least for me, because I'm looking for performance. I'm looking for a good durability, weight, performance, capability ratio. And I know that that combined with a good look, a sharp name, and a sharp message usually does pretty well. And you put it in a couple of people with the right hands, in the right hands. I will also say that probably more so in the outdoor industry than about any other industry is people are also very motivated to support the brands that they think align pretty well with their values as well. So doing things that are good for conservation, for access to trailheads and access to wilderness areas, stuff like that. You have to have a little bit of caution. You can't go totally overboard, but I've been to Washington, D.C. to meet with staffers, with the Wilderness Society. I've been, op-eds, met with several senators on local things. They've come to various events and reps and stuff. So I think that really aligning with what users value helps the messaging as well.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. And it kind of segues into one of the other questions. I think that, for different types of products, you sometimes will have different ways that you're going to reach your likely customer. So sometimes it's online, sometimes it's influencers, sometimes it's, trade shows. Sometimes it is, having brick and mortar store, and that both seems like it's depends a little bit on the industry, as well as a little bit of how things might evolve. And so kind of broad industry, big, a lot of different types of products, but is there any kind of evolution or change within the industry, or kind of where do you see people are tending to gravitate towards to find customers within the outdoor industry?
Well, that is, there's been a ton of changes there. Uh, Early on, because of my computer background, the focus was really on organic search results and doing well in SEO. And within our vertical, we probably had a benefit that we were the first brand that did pretty well with SEO, and that I did the SEO stuff as well. And then also, I was pretty darn good at targeting people that were likely customers on Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of platforms. And I had my basic philosophy I worked with back then was that if I could find 50,000 to 100,000 customers that I thought were fairly likely buyers and really deliver them a good message, that would be more new customers than we could even deal with in a year. That was just beyond our capability to even support that many. So if I could find 100,000 and 10,000 of them turned into realistic customers, we would have a tremendous growth, especially when our average order value was 500, maybe a bit above. Uh, that has changed and shifted quite a bit. In fact, I recently interviewed for another outdoor brand, trying to make a little bit of money in the segue between the brands. And they had a plan that I thought was really like a 2017 plan. And I literally told them that I was like, you know, that idea would work really good 7, 8 years ago, but it's not going to work now. Now AI has taken up a lot of the organic search. People were also typing in much longer questions because they're getting used to the fact that AI can answer a much longer question. The Facebook and Instagram have are not near as effective at finding the target. They want you to use just their AI algorithm. It's getting much harder to be like, I need 50,000 high probability customers out of your 200 million people you have on here. It wants to go show it to everybody, and it's just a black box and you can't really touch it. That has made those a bit harder. I do think you can reach customers effectively on YouTube. I think things that are very um, give insight into your mindset have a fairly long-term value, like maybe Substack stuff, YouTube, LinkedIn, things like that. But it also depends. I mean, there are certain products that probably do, especially if they're a lower sale price product, probably do much better with a cute girl on TikTok, given a 15-second blurb. Uh, so it's it's finding the right place for them. For me, I think the right place is much more in the YouTubes and in that more long form content that people are looking at.
Well, awesome. Well, definitely some great insights, and time's already flown by. It feels like we just barely scratched the surface. We're already getting towards the end of today's webinar, today's Inventive Fireside. So maybe an opportunity to have you come back and share a bit more knowledge in the future, and we'll have to explore that as well. But at least for today's fireside, I do always like to wrap up with the same ending question. So we'll jump to that now, which will be, what is one of your favorite books or podcasts?
I bounce all over, so it's really hard for me to say one on the business side. I listen to a building brands podcast, I think it is. I think they're in Australia or in the UK. I also listen occasionally to some online marketing and direct to consumer type stuff. Um, but then otherwise, I mostly listen to health and fitness and a little bit of political, outdoorsy, what's going on in the outdoor space type stuff. As far as books, I haven't read as much as I used to read. I have a collection of short stories from Jack London. I went to his cabin, which wasn't really his cabin, but it was kind of his cabin up in Dawson City in the Yukon last year on a cool remote trip, and I used to like his stuff, that Klondike kind of outdoorsy stuff as a kid. So that's just the little thing I've been reading. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, sounds like so a lot of different and beneficial things that are enable you to learn the different aspects to build and grow the current business and continue to learn and grow as the industry evolves. So, well, now as we wrap towards the end of the Inventive Fireside, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above. What's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out
The
more?
best way to find me is the website is bearingoutdoor.com. So BEARING, outdoor, all one. Bearing is in compass bearing and load bearing, so it has a outdoor connotation. My email is kt@Bearing Outdoor. And you can also, right now, everything goes directly to me. I don't have any employees. I am starting to align up and get more of the investor materials ready on that end there and really hone out what the product line and product roadmap and everything looks like. I'm very excited for the future of this. I think there's an ability for it to be much more scalable than my previous brand and also remove some of the weaknesses, the inherent weaknesses there as well. But that stuff does take some money and it does take some time to build the right foundation.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, or make it or expand their network. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Or not podcast. Apologize, webinar. And but love to have you on and appreciate you sharing. Quick wrap up reminder for the audience: if you want to catch the any of the upcoming webinars with Inventive Fireside, always just go to the events tab on my LinkedIn page and feel free to explore those. Sign up for one, grab one, register, and you'll get the good reminders and help you to make sure to or catch some of the future knowledge as well. And if you do ever want to apply to be a guest on either a podcast or our webinar series, feel free to go to Inventive Unicorn. Well, thank you again for coming on the Inventive Fireside, Kevin, and wish the next leg of your journey better than the last.
Thank you. Okay, is that it?